Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Sarah Jane. I am a PR practitioner working in DC. I make a lot of content on wedding planning, grad school at Georgetown, and personal finances. So if that sort of content interests you, then be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe because it really helps support my channel. So this is my very first monthly book wrap up that I've ever made. I made a goal, if you guys watched my reset video, about how I wanted to read more books in the month of July, and I did that, which was insane. I normally average 1 to 2 books a month, and this month I actually read 7 books, which is actually crazy and so unlike me, and I loved it. It was amazing. And now I want to share my thoughts and wrap up what books I read, what I thought about them, that sort of stuff. And I've never really made a video like this on my channel before, so it's kind of really fun and exciting and something just new. But before we get started, I'm gonna talk about my statistics. Now, I just started using Storygraph, which is really fun, which tracks what you read and the genres. So I read 7 books. Only 6 of them are in this statistic because the first book I read this month, it isn't in Goodreads, which is kind of weird. But I have read 1,700 pages. My moods are predominantly mysterious and dark. Interesting. The most I read is mystery, followed by thriller. I found out this month in reading so much that I actually really love thrillers. Oh my god, I'm obsessed. Yeah, so I found that I've fallen back in love with books, and I don't know, it's just really fun. I haven't read this in a really long time. But anyways, okay, enough about that. Let's go ahead and get into the books themselves. So the first book I read this month, and I'm just gonna go in order of how I read because that's just easier, but this book is called Jackie and Me by Louise Baynard. So this follows Jacqueline Kennedy and her relationship with Jack Kennedy back when they're dating and into their marriage, but it's from the perspective of Lem, which is Kennedy's best friend. And he's an in-the-closet gay guy, and he kind of has his own things that he's working through, but he just really follows their relationship. It's really interesting. This author, I actually found out, is local to DC and teaches at a university nearby, and I loved this book so much I recommended it to my book club, so we're going to be reading it in September. But yeah, this was absolutely amazing. It was such a beautiful story about friendships and love and relationships and commitments and heartbreak, and it was just really beautifully written, and I gave it 5 stars. My favorite quotes from this book, the first one is, "The young Americans currently salivating over Lady Di's upcoming wedding would never understand, I think, what a big fucking deal Princess Elizabeth was." I think it's just kind of funny because the American culture is so obsessed with Princess Diana, but back in the day, Princess Elizabeth, now Queen Elizabeth, was a really big deal. So we start off the month really strong with a 5-star read, and then the next book I read was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. So this book is about a young married couple who are having trouble in their marriage, and so they go to a church in Scotland. They win a free giveaway and try to repair their marriage and work on it, but some weird stuff really starts happening. This book was amazing. This book is what made me realize that I really enjoy thrillers, which I did not know about myself. I love the way the POVs of this book, so each chapter is a different POV, and then there's also laced with letters from each anniversary because the book takes place over 10 years of their marriage, and so there's different marriage chapters, and it also intertwines the symbolism behind each year of a marriage. So for example, one year it's you're supposed to give a gift of paper, another year is a gift of copper, stuff like that, which I thought was really cool and I didn't realize. My favorite quotes from this book were, "You can't cross a bridge if you burn it." So true. Another one was, "The reason why a person lies is almost more interesting than the lie itself." Also so true. And then the last one was, "The only good thing about losing everything is the freedom that comes from having nothing left to lose." So just really great. I loved it. I also gave this book 5 stars. Rock, Paper, Scissors was kind of heavy. So after that, I wanted to go with something a little bit lighter, but still thriller, mystery. So I picked up her Royal Spinous by Rice Bowen. This is about a girl back in the 1930s. She's 34th in line to the throne, so she really has nothing to gain. And she has like some weird stuff going on in the house. She's penniless, and the only thing she really has is her name. And she's trying to solve the mystery of like why someone died. I will say that this is like a very surface level book. I don't know, like if you can see this pink marker here, like this is how long it took before the book got good, which I don't love that it takes halfway for a book to get good. And it's just very surface level, very baseline. It wasn't like, it was good, and I didn't see the end coming, but it wasn't written in a way that really like captivated my attention. So I gave this 3 stars, and I don't have any favorite quotes from this book. It's a really good like easy read though, that if you're trying to cleanse your reading palette, like this is a good read for that. So the next book I read is called Greenwich Park by Catherine Faulkner. Honestly, I picked this book up because the cover is just absolutely beautiful. Like, I love all the greenery. This book is also set in England, which is kind of funny because so was her Royal Spinous. But this book is interesting. So it's about a pregnant woman. So the chapters aren't traditional chapters. They're separated by the week of her pregnancy. So like 28 weeks pregnant, 26 weeks pregnant, 20 weeks pregnant. So like it really made me consider where she's at in her pregnancy and like how far along time has passed. It's about a woman who has like a really wonderful life on the outside, but inside like her marriage is kind of like falling apart a little bit. And she makes this best friend at a prenatal class who is also pregnant and a little bit like, she comes across as a little trashy, whereas the protagonist is a little bit more higher class. So it's a very interesting friendship because the protagonist is really lonely and there's a lot of things going wrong with her best friend and her husband. And then, yeah, it's a good thriller. It's actually her debut novel, if I'm correct. Yeah, this is her debut novel. So I thought it was really, really good, different than other things that I've read, definitely a thriller. I did not think I was really gonna like it as much as I did, since I don't really read a lot of like books about women that are pregnant, but it was written really well. I actually really enjoyed this book. My favorite quote from the book is that I notice her spine is now straighter, her gaze unafraid to meet mine, and I learned for the first time what power there is in justice and being believed. So overall, I gave this book 4 stars. I don't exactly remember, why did I not give this book 5 stars? Oh, the only reason I didn't get this book 5 stars is because the author did this thing where like she would lead the reader up into a suspense, but then at the climax she cut off the chapter and then the next chapter is already like down here. And so you don't actually know what happened at the really suspenseful parts, like the juicy parts, and you're kind of left having to like figure out what happened. So that was the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars. Genre would be suburban thriller, tropes friends to lovers, and then trigger warning would be infertility issues. So the next book I read after that was A Stranger in the House by Sherry Lapina. Anyways, I read this because it was recommended by Carter Sullivan in one of her videos, and I thought it sounded really interesting. It's about a girl named Karen, and one day when she's making dinner, she gets a phone call. She rushes out of the house and then like gets in an accident, which is super unlike her, especially because it was in the wrong side of town, and she can't remember anything. And then later on you find out that like someone was killed kind of near where she had her wreck. And so in the whole book you're trying to figure out like, okay, what happened on that night, and who's the person that died. It's a pretty like fast read, and it was a very good read. My favorite quote from the book is, "What is love anyway, she thinks, but a grand illusion. We fall in love with an ideal, not a reality," which I thought was very deep for one sentence. Trigger warning would be abusive relationships. And then overall I gave this 4 stars. Next book that I read was Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So many people have talked about this book, so I figured that I wanted to give it a try, and I know they made it into a movie, which I haven't seen it yet, but it's in my to-do list of things to do. But yeah, like so many people were talking about this book, so I figured I had to pick it up. And then I was in North Carolina earlier this month, so it just kind of made sense. If you are not familiar with this book, it's about a girl named Kaya, and she was sort of this like abandoned, forgotten child, and she has a lot of social anxiety and prefers to be alone in the marsh in North Carolina. And then, yeah, the whole book sort of like follows a trial of a death that's found at the very beginning of the book, so I'm not giving anything away. So there's sort of like two parallel storylines like going together. One is the death and the trial that's in like present day, and then the other follows the life of Kaya as she's like growing up. And so it was really good. I gave it 4.25 stars. For this like friends to lovers would be the trope, along with, so trigger warnings would be like abandonment issues. And then I don't have any like favorite quotes from this book. Yeah, I would say the reading's a little bit hard to get into because the syntax of the novel is written in the sort of like dialogue of people that are in the South, and I'm someone who grew up in South Carolina. Even I had like a bit of a hard time following along with this book, so just something to be aware of if you haven't picked up a copy yet. Overall, I gave this book 4.25 stars, and I'm hoping that the movie is good as well. So I finished the month off strong by finally reading ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I have heard so much about this book on like Book Talk, on BookTube, and I figured, I was like, I'm just gonna give it a shot. So like all the other books that I've read for this month are honestly mostly thrillers, suspense, mystery, except for Jackie and Me. And so I thought I'd switch it up a little bit and try something different. This is definitely fantasy. I am not someone who reads a lot of fantasy. I prefer like real world scenarios, but I'm not really into nonfiction. Like I like fiction, but like realistic nonfiction. But I was like, I'm going to give this book a try, and so I did. Yeah, I can honestly say like it was really good. Right? She just writes very well, so I could see myself like transported into this world. Oh my gosh, I haven't even told you what this book about. So this book is about a 19-year-old huntress named, I think it's pronounced Feyre. That's how I've been like pronouncing it in my head. But anyway, she kills a wolf in the woods, and this creature comes and demands retribution based off a treaty from long ago. So she's dragged into this like magical world as a human, where she's like surrounded by fairies. And when I think of fairies, I think of like Tinkerbell, but these fairies are more like Lord of the Rings majestic sort of fairies. And yeah, but there's like this wicked thing that's like growing, and she has to figure out a way to stop it. You know, I feel like that is a pretty good summary without giving anything away. Very good book. Tropes would be enemies to lovers. And I don't think there's really any trigger warnings. I will say like the end, I was like, what is going on? Like I feel like the first 2/3 of the books I was like, okay, like this is like a well-written fiction, and then the end I was just like flipping. I was like, wow. I'm really excited because I've heard that the second book gets even better, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't have any favorite quotes from this book, but I gave it 4.25 stars overall, and I'm really excited to read the second one. I did decide that I'm going to continue on with the series because I did enjoy it. So those are the 7 books that I read in the month of July. I'm so proud of myself. My goal was to read 2 books and I read 7, so definitely like tripled that. And I'm also gonna be making a video of books that I want to read in the month of August, so be sure to stay tuned for that. If you read any of these books, please let me know in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts of those books or whatever books you are reading. Also, please let me know if you like this type of video. It's the first time making it, so it's really fun, but I definitely want to see if you guys are like interested in this type of content. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, once again, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram. I post on there all the time, and I will see you guys later. Bye.